Of course, thousands of Australians are caught up in the storm chaos, with parts of the US in lockdown. Tony Marlow is an Aussie who's been working in New York City for the last 3 years, and he joins me now via Skype. Tony, where are you exactly, and what are things like there?
Hi, yeah, I'm on the corner of 2nd Avenue and Houston. Things are very, very windy here. A bit of sideways rain and a little bit of bedlam out on the streets.
What have you heard from authorities?
Yeah, they closed down the subway at 7 p.m. yesterday, and they've enforced evacuation zones for certain parts of the city. They are feeding through other pieces of information, but residents are fairly familiar with what to do. Fill bathtubs with water in case the power goes out. They're also enforcing, apparently, Con Edison, the local power company, is doing forced shutdowns of the grid, so most folks will lose power. I've heard from some colleagues and friends that live in Jersey, they've already been without power for the last two and a half hours or so.
So are you feeling fairly safe where you are at the moment there, Tony?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's this crazy mix of emergency situation, yet normalcy. I mean, today, walking around the streets just trying to see what's going on, there are people that have masses of water and food and tin goods trying to get home. And in the same breath, you see some joggers just walk past on their daily jog. It's kind of an only in New York situation, but right now, feeling safe. It's really just at the precipice. It's starting now. I think we only just made landfall in the past 20 minutes or so. So I suspect that the winds will get more and more crazy, and but for the moment, safe and well.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. You've been living there for 3 years now in the States, Tony. Have you seen anything like this before?
Well, I was here for Irene, and that was a bit different. I mean, honestly, if you lived in the city for that particular hurricane, it was a bit of a letdown. There was a bit of a joke that, 3 leaves fell off trees and not a lot of damage in the city, although there was some serious damage in other parts of New Jersey and upstate New York. But yeah, this is a first time for me. It's a very different vibe to last time, and I think there's a bit more of a caution that's going along with this particular superstorm.
You say you're just feeling really the beginnings of it now where you are. Have you had any warning on how long the storm will last there?
Yeah, so we're getting our information from local news agencies. I mean, it's most folks, myself included, offices are shut down today and also tomorrow. I think the expectation is by Wednesday we should be in the clear, but not a lot of official comment on that so far.
All right, Tony Marlow, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for chatting with us this morning.
A supercharged storm that tore in from the Atlantic.
Whoa, hey guys. Whoa.
A three-pronged attack, screaming winds, drenching rain and a storm surge that drowned the coast.
This city is basically underwater.
Atlantic City, its famous boardwalk, reduced to driftwood.
Check complete, storm's going down.
At sea, a risky helicopter rescue as the replica of the Bounty sank off North Carolina.
First survivors coming out of the raft.
16 on board. Most made it into a life raft. Some extraordinary skills as the pilot and crew winched 14 to safety.
I said, hey, I'm Dan. I heard you guys need a ride.
One dead and the captain still missing. A storm so big, only a picture from space did it any justice. 15 times the size of Cyclone Tracy. So vast it would stretch from Brisbane to Melbourne.
When they tell you to evacuate, you need to evacuate.
I have to keep on reminding myself this is not some beachside suburb or a seaside town, but New York. Streets, cars underwater, and the backdrop, those city lights are gone.
And here, the main arm of a building crane buckled in 80-kilometre-an-hour winds. Tons of steel left swinging over the street below.
Watch your back, folks. Get on the sidewalk.
The wind and rain combined, weakening the front of an apartment block. It collapsed, leaving a doll's house view of the rooms inside. Somehow, no one was injured. Times Square, the lights were on, but everyone was home, including Aussie Tony Marlow.
We've got some candles, some cards. There are 3 of us here holed up. We seem pretty well. We've got a bathtub full of water just in case.
Lower Manhattan under attack again as a storm surge swept into construction works at Ground Zero and washed into road tunnels and the city's subway.
You can see the water is flowing down into these grates
And you'd think, well, if it's a stormwater, well, it's not so bad, but it's not. This is so far up from the coast. What this is the subway tunnel. That is the subway down there, one of the main lines. This is not a storm drain, it is a subway tunnel. So down there, the tracks, all that equipment they have down there, all the power they have running down there is currently being flooded with water, and that is part of this huge damage bill they're going to see from this.
We have seen record surge levels. We're seeing an extraordinary amount of water throughout Lower Manhattan. The latest estimates show roughly 250,000 customers without power.
And this is why. Water floods a substation, there's a fire, and then it explodes. Floods.
Oh my God, it's washing everything away!
Rain and fires. An apartment block ablaze and 25 people rescued. At one of New York's biggest hospitals, the backup generators failed, and so staff had to evacuate patients, including babies. Much of New York is now in darkness, half its residents without power.
It's out of a movie. Everything's gray and moving, the winds are blowing. There's water creeping up, Tribeca. It makes absolutely no sense.
For the first time since the 9/11 attacks, Manhattan is isolated. All its bridges and tunnels closed by the flooding and high winds.